Guys, is he here? Arun? Arun? Is he here? He's coming. Guys, please stand up. No, no. Sanskar, bro. Please take your seats. Esteemed members of the IRMA Society, Board of Governors of IRMA, Dr. Umakant Dash, Director, IRMA, Professor Shyam Singh, Dean Academic at IRMA, respected members of the faculty, my staff colleagues, participants, and all of you joining us virtually. Good afternoon. My name is Shivansh Mishra, and I head communications at the Institute of Rural Management, Anand. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Shiksha Aarambh Vyakhyan commencement speech and fireside chat. We are fortunate to have with us today Shri Venu Srinivasan, Chairman Emeritus of the TVS Motor Company. We also welcome Shri R.R. Nair, a revered HR mentor to the Institute. May I please request all of you to welcome them with a huge round of applause. At the outset, I request Dr. Umakant Dash, Director, IRMA, to welcome our guests. Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Umakant Dash to the dais.
Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the Shiksha Aarambh Vyakhyan Commencement Speech 2023 for the incoming 44th batch of IRMA PGDM RM and 22nd batch of the FPM RM program. On behalf of the governing body of IRMA, my faculty colleagues, and the entire IRMA community, I welcome our esteemed speaker, Shri Venu Srinivasan, Chairman Emeritus of the TVS Motor Company. We are immensely grateful that Shri Srinivasan accepted our request to deliver the commencement speech and conduct a fireside chat today. Sir, IRMA was born in 1979 as a realization of the vision of Dr. Varghese Kurian, who saw management education as emancipatory and transformative for the vast rural canvas of this great nation. 43 years on, IRMA continues to serve the nation by nurturing rural managers who leave the hallowed gates of this campus and go on to become change maker and nation builders. As with every year, we have a vibrant and extremely talented pool of aspirants from across the country who are now part of the program as its participants. As we are sure that their achievements in the future as flag bearers of this institute will shine a brighter light for IRMA. The Shiksha Aarambh Vyakhyan is the commencement address for the incoming batch of IRMA flagship program PGDM RM. Since society is well integrated into the curriculum of PGDM RM, course at IRMA, we want our participants to be motivated by a person of eminence as they gear up for the important journey in their lives. Our eminent speaker for today is Shri Venu Srinivasan, Chairman Emeritus of the TVS company. Shri Srinivasan is Chairman Emeritus of TVS Motor Company, one of the largest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world, as Sundaram-Clayton Limited, a leading manufacturer of the automotive components in India. He is also the Vice Chairman of Tata Trust, India's most respected and largest philanthropic foundation, and the majority shareholder of Tata Group. He is a director on the Central Board of Reserve Bank of India. He holds an engineering degree from College of Engineering, Chennai, India, and Masters in Management from Purdue University, USA. Shri Srinivasan has held various important positions in the Indian industry, such as the President, Confederation of Indian Industry, and the President, Society of Indian Automobile Manufacturers. He has several prestigious awards to his credit, including the Padma Bhushan, the third largest civilian award of India. The Distinguished Civilian Honor, Order of Diplomatic Merit, was conferred by the President of Korea for his valuable contribution to promote Korea-India bilateral relations. He was awarded the Deeming Distinguished Service Award for Dissemination and Promotion Award 2019 by Japanese Union of Scientists and Engineers. The Ishikawa Kano Award by the Asian Network of Quality, the apex body for quality in Asia. Under his leadership, his companies were awarded the Deming Prize and the Japanese Quality Medal in 2022. He was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award at CNBC TV 18 India Business Leader Award in 2023. His commitment to competitiveness and the quality of our economy is manifested through his company's market presence in more than 80 countries across the globe. Shri Srinivasan's dedication to the transformation of rural India by empowering women in the rural areas can be seen through his passion towards setting up a Srinivasan's Services Trust, which has touched the lives of 1.6 million people in 2,500 villages across the country in the last 27 years. It's also my pleasure to welcome to IRMA Sri R.R. Nair, a consultant to the business on HR strategy and leadership and organization development. After a long and transformative stint with Unilever, he now consults for Fortune-listed companies. He's also a director on several boards, such as those of BASF and TVS. Through NIPM, CII, NHRD, and IRMA, he actively associates himself with the HRD movement in the country. A recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award of the NHRD, he has also co-edited a publication entitled Managing Transition. I extend a warm welcome to IRMA to you, sir. So now I request and invite Shri Venu Srinivasan to take the stage and guide our students so that they are going to prosper in their life. Thank you, sir.
Professor Das, members of the faculty, and most important of all, you students. I'm not going to speak very long because I think a monologue does not add as much value as a dialogue. So what I have planned and requested today is that with Mr. Nair, who is head of Unilever HR for Asia and then has been consulting with us and with many other companies as a mentor, I would not say as a consultant, and has mentored the HR process in our company and now in SST as well. So all I would like to just say a few points, I think, which are relevant. The most important thing for all of you is what you're going to achieve when you leave here. Your real life starts when you leave college. Actually, you've been on holiday all this while, but you didn't know it. Only when you get into work and start working, you realize at what good times university's life was and school life was. But the most important aspect of this institution is nation building, society building. It's very unique, and it coincidentally, 1979 was when I started my career. So my career is as long as this institution has been. It has been my loss that I have not known this institution 10 years or 20 years earlier when we started our social trust, Shri Srinivasan Services Trust, which I started in my father's memory. I would think all I would like to say is that whatever you do in life, you do whatever you want, but have passion and be joyful in what you're doing. You will never succeed if you take a job because it pays better or some career path is superior because it gets you to a higher pay or position. Those who succeed in life have always enjoyed what they did. So that is the first rule I would say. When you choose your future, please choose your future based on what gives you joy, what gives you buzz. That is a very, very important aspect. The second aspect is, in the sectors wherever you are applying, never take only the highest paying offer. Take the offer which will lead to maximum self-actualization. Even if it's 10 or 15% less today, you can make that up 10 times more by building a proper career. That is a journey of continuous learning. Because whatever you have learnt here is out of date tomorrow morning. So to say that I got a degree is fine, but soon the body of knowledge is constantly changing and world is constantly growing, and therefore you are embarking or should be embarking on a lifetime of learning and not saying that I've got a degree, I'm going to now monetize my degree through a job and get a job. I think more and more companies now are conscious and fully aware that they have to constantly keep adding value to their people and making them learn and grow in order for the organization to grow. And final and most important, never forget the institution that gave you this knowledge. So please keep in touch with this institution and keep trying to contribute to the institution. That's very important because all your teachers could have had much better paying jobs. They have actually sacrificed. Teachers across schools, colleges actually sacrifice in order to teach us and make us grow. So we should never forget either the teachers or the teaching institution that gave us the foundation to grow. Finally, given the great person, Dr. Kurian, who started this institution, he really was one of the great builders of India. And therefore, you must think of also giving back to society in a small way. I'm not talking about money. More importantly, maybe your time and your mind. Using the mind and time to support even a small institution where you work nearby, whether it is in rural management or education or something to do with the disadvantaged. I think in some small way, I think one should try to always give some time, even as you're growing and as your family responsibilities, that you still make a little time, maybe one weekend a month, but to associate yourself with some institution that contributes to society, particularly to the disadvantaged and those who are left behind. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, but I'll share much more of what I have learned and what I've tried to do as we have a chat with R.R. Nair. And I would like you to not wait till the end to ask questions, but we can pause every now and then so that it becomes more like a dialogue rather than just me telling you what I have learned or what I know. Thank you very much, Professor, for giving me this opportunity. And I wish you all great success. Jai Hind.
A very, very good afternoon, dear young friends. Congratulations for your day one, probably, in your journey. So greetings and good wishes from my side. I consider it as a great privilege and honor to have this opportunity to engage Mr. Venu Srinivasan in what we normally refer as a fireside chat. There is no fire around here, but the only inspiring fire is all of you, the young folks here. So you'll have a conversation, and as Mr. Srinivasan quite rightly said, engage with us in between. If you have any queries to clarify what Mr. Srinivasan would be responding to some of the questions, please feel free to do so. So you have heard about the emphasis on three things I heard. One, passion. Number two, look at the long term and really focus on self-actualization as you make a career post-IRMA. And the third one is don't forget the alma mater. Make those connections going. But I'm going to sort of further engage with Mr. Srinivasan by asking a question which is related to something which is very closest to his heart. The creation of SST. How many of you have heard SST? There are some hands going up. Srinivasan Service Trust. So I'm going to sort of jump into it by asking him, rural society building is very important for building the nation. And that explains why you have all chosen rural management for your career. You have been doing this for almost 3 decades with your passion, with your perseverance, with your commitment. Who inspired you most? And what are your impetus about rural development?
The inspiration actually for me was my aunt. My father's elder sister was more like a grandmother, my father being significantly younger. She was a Gandhian. She was actually, in those days, a miracle herself. She lost her husband at a very early age because he was working on plague and he nicked himself by mistake during a surgery and he got plague and died. So it was, and they were just married actually. And at that time, the typical thing for a widow would be to stay at home. But a great person who started the cancer hospital in Chennai, which is today one of the eminent cancer institutes in India, one Muthulakshmi Reddy, she told my grandfather, this is not correct, you must educate your daughter. So can you imagine, in the 30s, he sent her to Delhi to the Lady Willingdon Medical College to get a degree in medicine. And then became a Gandhian, and then Gandhi married her beyond caste, much to the chagrin of my grandfather. And she then donated all the money that she got from her father to create what is today the Gandhigram Rural University, and founded the Gandhigram for rehabilitation of widows, rehabilitation of orphans, and to teach rural cottage industry skills, soap making, paper making, Ayurvedic medicine making, to rehabilitate people in that area. It was near Madurai in Tamil Nadu where she started that. So I would say without any doubt that she was the inspiration behind my wanting to do service to society. The second inspiration, to name it Srinivasan, that was my father's name. In South we don't have a family name. Because of modern passports and application forms, you take a surname. So I took my father's name as a surname. Otherwise, I would also have been S. Venu and not Venu Srinivasan. But he was greatly interested in the welfare of his employees, primarily poor people in general, but primarily to his employees. And he saw business as a service to provide jobs in a poor country. So once when I asked him, you don't make much money personally, you don't live extravagantly, so why do you want to do business? So he told me, you're an idiot to ask a question like that. How many thousands of homes we have lit a lamp? So you do business actually in a country like India to contribute to society. And his frame makeup and frame was such that people like George Fernandez were great friends of his, because they saw in him a different kind of business leader who was not about selfishness and making money, but had a greater and broader purpose. I'm sorry I'm taking a long-winded answer, but that is how, when I started life in 79, my father died very young and very unexpectedly. So the first 13, 14 years of my life was only in trying to find my feet and build this. He died on the day the moped factory Grah Pravesh was done. There's no building, there's only a building, there's no machinery, and I was the project manager. The next 14 years went in that. Then in 93, 92, we had a setback. We had a major labor strike. So when we solved the problem of the strike and we were ruminating about the causes, reasons, and why it happened, because TVS, a strike was almost unknown. In the 110 years we have been in business, we've had 2 strikes. So one of the first things that came to mind was we had not looked after the local community. We had set up a factory in a rural area and doing well, but we did not have any thoughts about what the local community. The second, we did not implement many of the welfare programs for our own employees that we deeply believed in. So out of that came the idea that we should start giving back to society. In a country which is poor, not as poor today, you haven't seen poverty. Believe me, you haven't seen poverty. When I was a child, when I was growing up, I remember one of the early days when I was going on a road and my company had a guest house there. They sent me breakfast. They had large tiffin boxes, each having 6 idlis and vadas and whatever else, khichdi, water. And I eat 2 idlis, that's my breakfast, and so I was wondering what to do. So I went to, stopped at a small settlement, called the lady and said, I got excess food. She came and put the khichdi, the idli, the vada, the sambar, the chutney, everything into one vessel, and called everybody, we have got food. Left such a deep impression on me. That was the poverty of India, and I felt we should therefore, in my father's memory, in my aunt's memory, seriously start giving back to society. I'm sorry it was a long
No, no, not at all. I think these are powerful stories and reflections. May I encourage you also to make a reference and talk about any impact that you received from your grandfather?
No, I was very young when my grandfather died. I was 2 years old, so I can't claim. Only I was inspired by his stories of exactness. He ran hundreds of buses on zero late coming, zero breakdown, unheard of in India in the 30s. So I think a lot of the quality of our company, the exactness of our company came from him, but not the social side. But I would like to refer to one song. You know, it was the 175th year of College of Engineering, Guindy. And there was one song that was constantly played, I know, for whatever reason in that exhibition hall, in the electrical lab where I had set up a project. This song was going. Even today it brings tears to my eyes. I'll say the words in Tamil and then translate it in English for you. பூஞ்சிட்டு கன்னங்கள் பொன்வழி தீபத்தில் பால் பொங்கல் பொங்குது கண்ணீரிலே கண்ணீரும் உப்பிட்டு காவேரி நீரிட்டு கலையங்கள் ஆடுது சோரின்றி இதயங்கள் ஏங்குது வாழ்வின்றி. This song goes, these poor little பூஞ்சிட்டு கன்னங்கள், these little buds, these young children are growing up, and Pal is milk, and milk is boiling, but not milk, tears. Pal pongal pongadu kanneerile. What is only your tears that are boiling, not milk. And it says, and all the vessels are in the house empty, making noise without any rice in it. And not only are they empty, these children also have no life. And hearing that song for over a week when we had the celebration, again and again, I don't know for what reason they're playing it, left a very deep impression of the disparity between the privileged and those who are completely living in misery and want.
If I can just also request you to reflect about your association with Sri Bhagavan Satya Sai Baba, because somewhere along the line you have been hugely impacted by Baba's own convictions and compassion.
I went to Baba right at around that time in 93 when I was actually reflecting on my life and faced a crisis of survival. And there are 3 things I learnt from him. The first and foremost is not service. I always was skeptical about it, although I ended up doing it later. But one was compassion. God is love and love is God. And God is the gold in every ornament. Whether it's Islamic or Sikh or Jain or Hindu ornament, the ornament gold is God. We only make different forms out of it, different shapes out of it, give him different names, give him different forms. Ultimately, the fact is that divine is formless, genderless, and nameless. It is for our convenience that we give it. So that is the second thing, is the acceptance of diversity, diversity in caste, diversity in religion, and actually to bring harmony, love, trust and peace in communities. I'm not trying to say that we erase diversity. You're never going to be able to do that. That's a fact. Diversity exists in life Different trees are different, different animals are different. So he made a very deep impact. Third was his motto, which was love all, serve all. To me, it was not very appealing. But as I went through this journey, we renovated some temples at the request of the government. The government said these are very ancient temples, they have no money, you take it up and renovate it. We found the village was absolutely in poverty. So what was the point in having this lovely new temple being created or old temple being renovated around poverty? The deep inner meaning of a temple must symbolize something that is good. So the society has to become good so that the temple becomes in a good setting of a lovely society, you have a lovely temple. So we started this village development with intensity. Baba was clearly the motivator of that.
You have been a champion of holistic rural development, and you have driven this approach through the Srinivasan Service Trust. Now onwards, I will refer as SST. So would you be good enough to amplify this philosophical approach to holistic integrated development, which would be of great interest to all of us?
Okay. Before I answer, at any time you please put up your hand. I'm quite happy to take answers at questions at any time. So holistic comes from our basic philosophy of TQM. In a company, quality is not just of the product. Unless every action and every part of the company is of high quality, you cannot have a quality company. I can't have a right arm that's strong, left arm that's weak. One eye doesn't work, 1 ear doesn't work, and yet be considered a holistic human being. In the same way, society, unless all people in that society are prosperous, joyous, harmonious, you cannot create development. I was against principle of, I'll take that back. I started with charity, but my Japanese professor of TQM once said, I said, Professor, why don't you come and look at my villages and help us formulate our way to approach? He came look at the village and then he came back, we had a meeting in my office. He said, Venu-san, please don't create prosperity in your village. I said, Professor, why Professor? He said, India, richest poor country, you waste more than Japan. So please reduce waste. Don't create new wealth. There's enough wealth. It's only being thrown away. So that was the fundamental principle of Japanese management itself, is war on waste. And penny saved is a penny earned. So if you don't spend, then I don't have to earn also as much. That was one very profound statement he made. Second statement he made, Venu-san, your development is not sustainable. I said, why, Professor? He said, Venu-san, give and give very easy. But give and give not sustainable. One day company also will have up and down. And you will not be able to give. Then what will happen to that society? So he says, you must have give and take. And he's not a professor who will explain himself. He just made that comment and went away. So I had to break our heads and saying, what do we take from people? So we said there are three things we will take from people. One is discipline in their daily life. Clean village, children going to school, good habits. Second thing that we will take from them is self-reliance. That they will take charge of themselves and we'll create sustainable communities with renewable leadership coming from those communities and not a dependent community. So these are the two things that we said we will take. We don't want money from them. Third is, we also said any project we undertake, there must be a community contribution. It may be 5%, 10%, 15%, does not matter. But they must have a little finger in the pie. For example, one of the early things was a temple, church, mosque. The mosque, the people came and said, we want a compound wall. So the chairman of my foundation said, no, I won't give you. I will give you bricks and mortar. You produce the labor. In the church, they were complaining that, people are putting dirt and garbage. He said, okay, you have a Christian community. Every week you get them to come and do the Karseva. So, everywhere we started, same thing in the temple. So we started cleaning the places of worship by a group of multi-religious people. So these people had, the early days, whether they're still doing it, I don't know. But in the early days, we had saying that you must form multi-religious group which will clean places of worship together. So in this way, we want them to take ownership of their lives and their progress and not be dependent on handouts. Because when you give a hand, there is a hand which is raised, which is the giving hand, and a hand that is below, which is the receiving hand. So there is no equality. There can never be mutual respect. But if you put shoulder to shoulder and go forward, then you are together in progress. So that was the concept.
Wonderful to hear, and that's a very brilliant response from all of you after hearing him. There is one aspect about this holistic and integrated rural development, which is his passion, and your passion for women empowerment and the self-help groups that have been formed. And we have at this point of time 60,000 of them. Would you like to amplify and share with us for our benefit?
So when we started talking about waste, what are the aspects of waste in the village? We started examining. The first waste was human resources. No women in this village worked. We went to Padavid where you have done studies. No woman would come out of the house. The man would frown if the woman left the house. So they were absolutely, I wouldn't say unproductive, that's unfair. They were only looking after the house. And all the spare time they will sit in the front of the house and watch whatever goes by. They just like this, doing nothing. So the spare time other than cooking and looking after children was idleness. The second, so we took that waste as one of the major waste of human talent, waste of human time. So we started these self-help groups to convert agricultural waste into wealth. So we started, banana was a big crop, and the banana stems after harvest would be thrown in the gutter. So we started scraping the banana stem, taking the fiber out and selling the fiber. Then slowly they went on to make handicraft products. And therefore the women started making about 1,500 rupees a month. They didn't have to leave their homes and go far away. They just worked in their home or in a common place in the village and worked 4 hours a day, and they were making about 1,500 rupees a month. Now today it doesn't seem like much. In today's India, 1,500 nobody will come. But in the India of 1990, that was still enough money to add, because that was entirely discretionary income added to the family. And the kind of comments that the wives would make, in fact we had videos, he's saying before when we had to go to a wedding and I asked for clothes for my children, my husband would say, no, we can't afford it. Today I buy the clothes from my savings. So it made a huge difference to the empowerment of women, to the liberation and self-confidence. So that is how the women's thing came out of this concept of don't waste. So human resources being wasted, human minds being wasted was a great waste.
One aspect. Thank you. with a very strong gender diversity in favor of young ladies around, I'm sure that this response from Mr. Srinivasan is very gladdening, wonderful. And mind you, we are actually operating, his SST is operating in 2,500 villages in India. Not... I think somewhere in the course of your responses, you have talked about integration from another perspective, which is all sections of the community must get involved, including that of the government and the agencies. So the question is, in the course of last, say, 3 decades of SST work, there is a collaborative governance model that you have conceptualized and you have helped and guided the SST team. And therefore, that has enabled you to build the roots of social and economic development in the villages. So can you kindly help us understand this collaborative governance model?
We saw ourselves as an agent of change rather than charity. So what could we do that would benefit the society? What could we do that will help the society become self-relevant, self-reliant? What could we do to create leadership pipeline in the society so that they could take charge? Future panchayat leaders would come from this program where they have seen SST at work and they've seen self-reliance at work. So when doing that, the first and foremost, you won't believe this. In India, I have had students from Columbia University come and do summer internship in the early days. And the girls who worked in Africa, they say, we go to an African village. It is so different. We cannot call your village a village. Because in your village, every agency of the government is represented. There's a government school, there's a government primary health center, there's a government veterinary clinic. If you go to Africa, there's nothing. There are only farmers and no presence of the government. There's no police. So he said, actually in India you're very significantly advantaged that the government has an arm in almost every village. So what could we do? But that arm was not working. You go to the primary health center, toilet you can't step into. So doctors and nurses themselves don't like being there. Fan won't work, light won't burn, dirty. It has not been painted since 1963 when it was built under some 5-year program. So we said the one thing that we could immediately transform is government infrastructure, where the building has been built for today's cost, maybe crore and a half, but they will not spend 15,000, 20,000 rupees a month on maintaining it. So we adopted across villages where we work, these are the following things we maintain: Anganwadis and Balwadis, so that children, pre-children come to a clean environment, walls are painted with whatever birds, trees, I don't know what else you paint, you can show. But anyway, something which educates them. There's a scale, so you can measure the kids' heights just by standing against the wall. So simple things. And then we make sure this women's self-help groups, they go every day. Somebody will go from the group with some chickies or something, and give them something to eat. 2, we took all the schools, most schools didn't have girls' toilets. So that's one reason girls dropped out at puberty, is they don't have privacy of a girls' toilet. So we started building girls' toilet in every school. But in the process, we also realized the boys' toilets are unusable. If the boys' toilet had been built, wouldn't have running water and would never be clean. The smell was intense. So how do you engender cleanliness if you don't have clean toilets and clean classrooms? So we started with clean toilets to begin with. Third area we took up was government primary health centers and veterinary clinics. You ask why veterinary clinics? because they are very desperately needed by the farmers who keep cows and poultry, that they get veterinary advice. And by keeping the veterinary clinic clean, we are motivating the government doctor there to say somebody cares for us also. So if you care for somebody, usually at least 70% of the time they will reciprocate. So we started taking up government infrastructure maintenance as a very primary responsibility of SST in all the villages we work. So second, they won't get tribal certificate, so they won't get the benefit of tribal, the belonging to a tribe. They will not get caste certificate. They will not get electricity last mile. Various government programs will stop at the district headquarters. District headquarters village, the last mile connectivity. So our SST staff became like village agents doing last mile connectivity for the villages. So any program that's available to districts, so if you have a matrix, village area and programs, we make sure that we tie up every node so that the government programs can come to the village. It doesn't cost any money except our staff. So we have 400 today, how many? 400 people living in villages. Head office is 10 people, 20 people. So 380 people live in villages, recruited from villages. So they are embedded in the community. So we actually, that's how we act as an agent of change. By getting government programs, getting welfare programs, road programs, water programs, we make sure, because of our influence, we are able to make sure that we work with the collector, we work with the secretary. That's why our chairman has always been a senior IAS officer.
So two very powerful messages. Kamala, go ahead.
Good morning.
My name is Shri and I actually wanted to ask you one question. When you said about that multi-religious people were coming together and trying to build a community, did you ever face any trouble bringing people of so many religions together to contribute to work for another religion too? It's not, from my perception, I think it's not that easy of a thing.
It is not easy, it is not difficult. It requires certain amount of dialogue, making people sit together and do it. It was not very difficult. South India is not as divided by religion as it is by caste. Caste conflicts are much more severe for us to manage. For example, when you had a scheduled caste community to be given housing, typically the Thakur caste, I would say North India, the equivalent would be a Thakur caste. They said, no, they cannot live here. So we had to do a lot of work working on caste. On caste harmony certainly was more difficult. Today, when I went to my own village, my grandfather's village, they would not show Aarti to scheduled caste. And this is after years of temple entry program in 1940s by E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar or whatever. But therefore I had to take it and I said, look, you can't do this. I will come with them. Will you show me Aarti or not? So one of the big problems in villages is that we are deserts in our village. All the people with intellect have migrated, got the chartered accountant, the lawyer, doctor, and gone away, leaving behind only middle intellect people. So there's no intellectual leadership available in the villages. One thing that we could provide, a very significant, actually because of a question it triggered this response, is that we provide leadership in the village. They look up to the SST person as a person who can give thought leadership.
So sir, after that you had implemented this program and people had mingled with each other, then did you or your organization observe that there was a community, that harmony between people of different castes also?
You can definitely see one thing in the areas where you work, any caste or community conflict is very, very low. For example, when I go to my village, I have not been 3 years since COVID, but when I go, all the Muslim ladies will be sitting in the front row. And the school teacher was one of them. She got up and said, our husbands would never let us leave our village. But when chairman is coming, nobody can stop us from coming.
Sir, I also had another question. So, you also talked about like how employment generation your trust was able to make for women regarding the craft work. So, when we recently went for our induction field segment, and there also all the dairy cooperatives were working. We went to Gujarat villages. So, we saw that women were already employed because of that, because the money also directly was credited into their own account. But still there is a gap between women making decision collectively for the community. Like if there is a cooperative working, a few days back our sir also told us that there is a term for this, Sarpanch Pati, he said. So like even if they are in that place, they are given that position of decision making, they don't actually make the decisions, even though they are employed.
I will go one step beyond that. I went to a lady collector. Husband was sitting there. He only takes all the decisions for the collector. Government officer. You are not talking about Sarpanch Pati, Collector Pati. Okay, and I was shocked. I asked the senior government officer who came with me. He said, sir, it is like that at that level. Many times promotee collectors, you'll find the lady is promoted, the husband is sitting at home and controlling decisions she takes and collecting the money. So that happens. Okay, that is real life. But what can I say? I can show you fresh sprouts of change. When I remember taking my daughter once to the village, and I let her also see what you're doing. So one lady came, she looks like a nice wrestler. So I asked her, I said, what happens if your neighbors, I didn't ask her husband, she would have beaten him. So I asked her, what happens if your neighbor's husband drinks and comes and beats his wife? He will do it. We will take our brooms and chase him out of the village. And in our self-help group, we'll provide her a place so that there's enough income for her family. So it does create huge change. You will be surprised. And I think some of my colleagues from SST here can say it. Is it uniform? No. Is it universal? No. But is it the sprouts of change? Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
I don't claim that we have created ideal villages, but we have created a village which is closer in the direction of ideal compared to where they started. Yes, please.
Good morning. My name is Kishore Supekar. Sir, when you talk about the women empowerment and making them more and more financially independent through your SST, different 2,500 villages, could you find any difference in your area of operation in the level of acceptance amongst different, like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka or Kerala, wherever you are operating? So how you find the difference in acceptance?
Acceptance of what?
Acceptance of your ideas about the women empowerment. Like, we find in, say, northern part, as you said rightly, that Sarpanch, so that...
I think your colleagues have been, I don't know who here has been to Padaivid physically. I think they can answer that question better than I can answer because they outsiders have gone and seen it. Would one of you like to answer? What is your observation? Acceptance of the village for change programs or what we want to think is better for them. What is the acceptance because of our intervention?
Yeah, I think most of the thoughts that you shared, we resonate in the sense that during my and Professor Rakesh's interactions, one of the things is that the field officers of SSTs are really, they had a huge respect in the village. Community find them to be one of their own, and they are very proud of the association of SSTs. So in a sense that on many occasions, I think their words were taken very seriously, and the interventions that has been designed by SST or proposed by SST, I will not I mean, really not, design is not in a sense the imposed. It is generally co-design. And there is general sense of agreement. There is a lot of buy-in on that sense. As Sir was talking about this collaborative governance, I think we also did some studies on this collaborative governance. And one of the general finding is this, that the community buy-in is one of the major mechanisms. I think no ideas has been implemented without getting a buy-in from the community. So in that sense, I think these are generally, there is a huge acceptance in terms of the interventions. I mean, that's what my immediate reaction will be like that. Yeah, thanks.
No, I think you could also probably connect to an observation made by Mr. Srinivasan, that if we are not a service provider, but we are an enabler, if SST is a facilitator, the ownership of all the change initiatives, including, sir, your point about self-help groups and women empowerment, that gains a great deal of acceptance. Change becomes far more easier. And your point, sir, village development officers are all recruited locally from the community and suitably trained and developed in terms of the requisite skills. So, mindful of the time, can I actually, on your behalf, go through with another 3-4 questions? What do you feel? All right. Now, the next one has to do with a passion that you seem to have exhibited about your model of community development, which you refer it as all about community intimacy. What exactly that you have in mind?
What is community intimacy? We call it customer intimacy in business. To be very, that is, you really deeply understand the consumer's passion or desire or use or fashion or whatever it may be. Unless you have consumer intimacy, you cannot design a product or service that will be bought by the consumer. So the same way, when you go to the village, what does the intimacy mean? First, you must understand the undercurrents of religion and caste. You cannot wipe it away. There is no caste, no religion. It's wonderful as a political slogan, but in reality, everybody has an identity. And for them, their identity is important. So, instead of calling it a casteless society or a religionless society, what we are trying to create is a harmonious society based on mutual respect, mutual trust. So, therefore, we need to understand exactly, I think we should give copies of the book, Jumping into the Goldfish, for them to use it. There's a Japanese professor who brought this, saying, how do you create a solution for a village? First is, the village is a goldfish bowl. So you jump into the goldfish, you swim with the fish, you understand them, but instead of being sucked in by their divisions, you jump out and then you create a solution for them by knowing them intimately. So you have to understand, in some places, for example, you talked about women, in some places the gender oppression may be much stronger. In some communities, it may be lesser. In some communities, the religion or caste may be stronger. So you need to understand, I'll give you a simple example, having said that. We are producing a rural bike. And it's all because it started with the Suzuki, it's all Japanese design. The front rear went up like that. Now, while the urban people like it, the rural people wouldn't buy it. So I asked my UP, he said, sir, this is a big problem. See, the wife is sitting higher than the husband. How will they ever buy this bike? So we want a flat seat. Now, this is customer intimacy.
One of the focus areas of SST has been, and very strongly propounded by you, and you are focused on it, is water conservation. What is the belief system behind this thrust on water conservation?
Is the easy part of it, because for society, the rural economy is based on agriculture. And the one thing that makes an immediate impact on any rural community is availability of water changes that life. So the minute we did, for example, in our grandfather's village, a huge tank, 150 or 200 acre tank, and the sluices had not been repaired for 30 years. And PWD refused to let us even do it, but because we are an IAS officer, as the chairman, he spoke to whomever he spoke, and we got permission to repair it. That increased the water holding by 35 days. That made all the difference. All the crops changed from paddy to banana, which is far more remunerative. So, or in some places, you can go from one crop to two crops. So, it is the greatest gift you can give a village, and that's where I would say we do still some charities that we actually spend money. We have done about 51 million cubic feet of removal of silt, which is not bad for a single private trust to remove 51 million cubic feet is still a fairly large amount of silt that we have removed. And you can go and see, and I think you have done some study. We've also done some studies at Anna University on what the impact has been across 4 tanks that we had silted. In one tank it didn't rain, therefore it had made no difference. In 3 others, depending on the rainfall, the difference had been very good to medium. But all of them did have a difference, that they were able to change crop patterns or increase the crop.
We have recently come out of COVID, and on behalf of SST...
One more point. We also make sure that because you're holding water, groundwater improves. So clean water availability in the home, wherever people had a small, the old houses in the village, you'll have a well in the middle of the house. So at least you will find that they have drinking water available.
So holistically, the quality of lives of villagers have improved as a result of the focus on...
I would think so. One offer I would like to make to all of you is that we would be willing to take a dozen students for summer internship working with us.
I come towards the closing phase of the conversation, if time permits and if you allow. One has to do with COVID. We have recently come out of COVID. Your reflections about what you did and why you did.
See, when COVID struck, it was unknown. The fear, whole world was in fear. I don't think people even knew what to do. We did a lot of stupid things. They went around spraying pesticide or some kind of a germicide in every village. Later, this is a virus, and the germicide doesn't kill the virus at all. But how much of pollution we had, we don't know. We also did a lot of it. We had people, including with packs in the back, going around spraying around our factory in all the villages. But having said that, there are a couple of things that we did which are distinctly better. One is during the complete lockdown in the first phase, we provided all the government service providers with packet food and water. Because there were health workers, police, municipal workers. Every tea shop was closed. They had nothing to eat and drink, and they just asked to go on to a duty. So all around our factories, we did that. Let me start, we'll come to the patients later. The second, we helped set up this temporary, I wouldn't say hospital, but temporary place where COVID patients are accommodated, and also supplied them with food from our canteens, I think. It had a side effect which I shouldn't talk about, but it did have a side effect in the sense whenever any of our employees had COVID, they got priority in those places because we were the ones doing it. Third, I think, is the most important thing, and then we gave a lot of PPE kits. At that time, PPE kits are not available, so we did a lot of gloves and wear and all the things, masks. We imported millions of masks, and because we had contacts in China and we had contacts in Korea, we could get high quality masks and give them out. But one which really I appreciate was, we said, okay, the ventilators, not ventilators, what do they call them? Concentrators were a big issue. We import a lot from China for our bikes. So we contacted a very big industry there who makes things for us. And she was very, she said, I will pay the money. How many do you want? I will give the advance because everybody is clamoring for it. They need advance. We won't wait for your bank procedures. We will book. So they book thousands of the best quality. In fact, if we go to the government hospitals, they'll tell you the TVS concentrators are the best. Well, because made in China is different quality grades. We got about, how many did we get? 2,200 concentrators. And assuming that each one of them saved 2 or 3 lives, it's still a fair number of lives.
And Professor Das, do you think it is time for us, or do you have any time further? Because
No,
we'll take on a couple of questions also from the students. If you allow me, let me...
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's listen to them. Yeah. You need to press the button.
Hello sir, myself Shriya, and I wanted to ask, now that you have been a catalyst of change in rural society, and you have lived a life full of achievements, difficulties, and if you have a chance to go back to your 20-year-old self, you were probably a student then, and what would you have to speak as a word of advice?
I would put it this way. I don't know how many of you listen to this song. It's a very old song. Probably even your parents might not have listened to it. There's a song by Frank Sinatra called My Way. And he says how he lived life his way. And he said, regrets, I have too few to remember. So I know I did many mistakes. But had I not made those mistakes, I probably would not have learnt many things. So if I go back and say, would I change anything? Yeah, I wish I had not made those mistakes. But if I go back in that stage and time, I probably would have ended up making that same mistake. So I really have never regretted anything that has happened. Yeah, I know if I had done something differently, I wouldn't have suffered the consequences. But in life, success and failures are come in a mixed bag as destiny deals cards. And in every religion it says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Or all Bhagavad Sankalp, whatever you want to say. Therefore, I have always had an acceptance of what happened. So I never thought about what I could have changed.
Yes, sir.
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
No, we have time. I think I don't have a problem with time. So another dozen questions if you want to ask, I'm quite happy to answer.
Sir, so throughout the beginning to the end, we talked a lot about passion. And from what I've heard and from what I've learned about you, you seem like the kind of man who's never complacent and like uncommon among uncommon men. So how is that possible, sir? How do you never get complacent in your life? How does that happen?
If you're complacent, there's no way you can achieve anything. See, hard work, perseverance, energy, drive. Without that, you can't succeed. You may not succeed in spite of all that. So, okay, that's fine. But without that, you will not succeed, is for sure.
Sir, if I were to add to it, sir, were you born this way or something made you this way? Complacent. You never get complacent.
See, there are two things in life. Certain things are inborn, certain things can be developed. Okay, if I take clay and put millions of tons of pressure on it, it still won't become gold. But it will become better clay. So you're born with certain limitations. In fact, I used to be a karate student earlier, I didn't do very well. But one of the philosophy of karate was, can you do the best you are capable of? Not whether he broke 6 bricks, can I also break 6 bricks? That is competition. But if I can my body has only so much strength and your build is only slight, break 2 bricks. So I think maximizing your potential that God has given you is success. Not what you achieve. I would never rate somebody as a success because he achieved something. Is he a person who is doing his best to self-actualize? I think that is the mark and the quality of an individual.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Myself, Suraj Karode. My questions regarding the passion. You talk about the patience. We are all younger, warm blood. We are always planning about what to do, what not to do, and we are always trying towards it. And one or two trial we failed, and somehow we change our plans. So how do we stick to our plans?
In fact, there's one point I did want to touch upon. We are living in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, and C is for, I forget. Complex, ambiguous, okay, VUCA world. So in a VUCA world, I think life is very much more unstable than it was in the past. So you have to be very agile on your feet and very quick to change. So if you're going this direction, suddenly a bomb falls there. It's moving sideways, sidestepping it and going. So it's like playing a video game. So, what will burst in front of you, you don't know today. So you can't, today your planning horizons are much shorter. For example, even the annual plan is no longer valid. In the last 5 years, we find you can't do an annual plan because next quarter something happens. The Ukraine war has happened, and world tensions are high. China attacks India border. You do not know what can happen tomorrow. So, or Taiwan, something happens. So, I think being agile and responsive, speed of response is going to decide how successful you are. Not failure is okay. Failure is a stepping stone to success. There's no problem.
We always in a hurry, or maybe it is of competition or some other problems.
But that's life, no? You're in a war, so competition is going to throw bombs at you. You got to avoid the bombs, evade the bombs. Sometimes you'll get hit also. Those who take more pain are more likely to succeed than those who are stronger. And the best example of that was the rope-a-dope trick of Muhammad Ali, the greatest, where he just took the punishment from Foreman, and then finally when Foreman got tired, he came out and clobbered him.
Thank you, sir.
No, that we can't replace the government. We can do complementary things. For example, this desilting. The tank is there, it requires 25 lakhs. We can ask the community to give 5-6 lakhs, panchayat to give some 5 lakhs. But we can put the rest of the money and create a small improvement there. And that itself can improve that community. But we cannot build a Narmada dam. Corporates, in fact, many times they ask me before budget, what would you expect in the budget? I said I would expect investment in infrastructure and education and build society. That's what I expect. I don't want reduction in excise duty, reduction in income tax. What I really need is the government to invest what the government should be doing. Yes, please. Next is there. Somebody put up a hand. So next one there.
Hello, sir. My name is Anushka. So I want to focus on those statement, agent of change, not the charity. During the discussion, yes, you were saying that it's better to be an agent of change rather than doing the charity. And I really like that approach. But during our induction field segment, we were there for 4 days only, but if we want to change something there and if we have a plan, how to make them accept it or how to, be around them and make them feel that we are also one of them. As you said that we can stay there, we have to go in that and we have to stay there and we have to understand the concept. But I want to talk about the other party. Will they accept us in the same way? What should be our approach to become that agent of change?
So you're talking about change. Change is a process-driven approach. I want to change. Okay, I want you to change. Do you know how difficult it is to change yourself? So first is when we realize how difficult it is to change a small bad habit that we have, that we don't fold our clothes and keep it properly, you just drop it, and then you expect the villager to change. Why should he change? Okay? So first is process of change is to define the change, and define the change, what benefit. So first is the benefit, the purpose, then what change is required, then communicate the need for change, create a pilot for change, then when the pilot is seen by the village, it does help, then everybody changes. So you have to go through that. Child is still born in 9 months, millions of years after evolution. So change takes place only at that speed, and if you try to hasten that, you will actually not succeed. You will get a pushback.
Thank you, sir.
So next was who? Okay. Okay, 5 more questions. We'll stop at about 1:30 or 1:35. We'll stop. Keep your mic closer.
I just wanted to know, what if we wanted to provide solutions, knowing that we have our college, knowing that we have loans on ourselves, what will be your suggestion and guidance for that?
Can you please repeat again, because half of the time we couldn't fully listen to you. Yeah.
Like we went on our IFS and my friend asked the question.
IFS meaning?
We went to village for 4 days and...
Where?
To the Amba village in Gujarat.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So we did notice some problems over there, and we surely want to improvise that, but knowing that we have our curriculum, knowing that we have loans on ourselves, how would you recommend and guide us to make that change possible, if we want to?
Complex question. We need to have a full lunch for answering this.
I am unable to answer that question.
Totally understandable, sir. Thank you for your time.
Multiple, and I don't think we have fully understood, but since there are a few more waiting, yes.
Shall I continue first, or you will speak out?
Go ahead,
Okay.
since you have...
Afternoon, sir. First of all, I'm very much thankful that you have taken your valuable time for us. I'm Shashank from MBA first year. So my question is that in our 21st century, our generation has seen lot of industrial marvels being created in the field of service sector like Zomato, Flipkart, or some other industries. But our previous generations had the opportunity to see that industrial marvels like firm like TVS or Amul or Tata or Birlas were being set up. So sir, you himself being a management student, and we are in a B school where the maximum students aspire for the highest campus placement that you have just told. What advice you would give us to be on the path to become the J.N. Tata or Mr. Sri Sundaram Iyengar or Dr. Kurian of 21st century instead of just being a business manager?
So have I understood your question? How do I become a Mr. Tata or a Mr. Mahindra or a Mr. TVS? What exactly is the answer? Can you articulate your question?
Yes, sir. My question is that only. If the students of our batch or any students from a BE school, instead of just being aspiring for the highest campus placement, what they can look forward to be something like what Mr. Sundaram Iyengar or what Mr. Mahindra or Mr. J.N. Tata has done for the society and for the nations for the upcoming generations for years to come.
I think we will have a one-on-one conversation over lunch. Please come.
Yes, please. Last 3 questions.
Last 3 questions.
1, 2, 3. That red person, red t-shirt. Yes, please. Then 2 girls here.
So sir, my question was, in modern day, we have access to information to a scale that humankind never had. So what kind of relevance does traditional classroom education has in today's world, and how much amount of your learnings will you attribute to traditional classroom methods and outside the classroom learnings? What should we focus on in today's world?
I am not an educationist. I leave it to your director to answer that question. Can I move? Yes, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for being here, first of all. And I just wanted to ask that since TVS has more emphasis on total quality management, and you yourself have done a lot of work there, these days there are a lot of startups coming up that cannot afford that quality because then the product would also become expensive. What would you suggest such companies to do?
I don't agree with your question. Because total quality management comes much later. When you're an enterprise, you're starting up, where Tesla quality is still poorer if you take a hard build quality compared to, let us say, a German car. But Tesla's software and the innovation is so great, customers say, yeah, I know it has got some problems. And if you look at the problems per vehicle, Tesla is at a much higher rate than Volkswagen or Toyota. But people, the younger people who buy a Tesla will never buy any other vehicle. Second thing, if you look at Tesla, their accident rate is far lower. It's 1/3 of the accident rate of a conventional vehicle. So, there is the innovation, and then there is the regular definition of quality, fit for use, reliability, durability. But once you create the innovation, you got the customers. I'm sure 2 generations from now of new cars, Tesla will also catch up. So the startup has to have that unique hook or attractive quality which draws the customer. And TVS 50 had huge problems. But so many people wanted TVS 50, only moped which could take 2 people and 2 cans of milk, 100 liters of milk and go. But then we improved quality and we came here. So in the startup phase, what you require is that unique proposition that customers will buy. Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Kanika Sharma and my question is related to SST. So, sir, what are your plans to take SST to different parts of India, especially where it is already not operating, like different states of India?
Yeah, we thought about it quite deeply. Actually, one thing is that, we have to have direct connect to manage this process. We found that when we take our eyes off the ball, we have had many quality problems in what we did, reported. So we have at this point said that we will only operate in the southern triangle, not even South India, not south of Vindhyas, but just the small triangle which is southern Andhra, southern Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And that's all we can actually do. We are quite happy to engage with any other corporate who wants to learn, and we are willing to give them our entire procedures. Bosch has taken 400 villages based on what we did. So we try to share with other companies or other people who want to do. But increasing geography, I don't think is feasible. Last question, anybody? Okay.
Yep.
The person, the pink t-shirt on the right.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Soham Ragit. So my question is, I want your views on rural economy, COVID's impact on it, emerge of rural society from this pandemic, and where you see it after a decade.
Your vision of 2000 rural economy by 2030-35.
The rural economy, yesterday I was driving from my factory to the factory of Tata Electronics, deep in one of the most backward districts of Tamil Nadu. And what amazed me, and this is where this Professor Shiba from Japan, who wrote the book Jumping into the Fishbowl and on breakthrough management. Can you send one to Saumitra, breakthrough management book by Shiba? So what he said is, he went to our villages. He stayed actually in Padavidu and Thirukurangudi. He spent 2 nights there. He came back with pictures that are unbelievable. He says, you don't understand your villages. He said, Indian industry, and he's working with Indian industry, he worked with many companies. He said, Indian industry does not understand villages. Your villages are changing exponential rate of improvement compared to your towns. Your towns are improving, but your villages' rate of improvement is much, much faster. And you are going to miss those rural customers. That's why I request your director, I think, TVS should take up projects with IRMA on understanding the rural customer. Of course, certain states are lagging behind, certain districts are lagging behind, and there are lots of challenges. But rural India is developing very, very rapidly. And what I do see is one significant issue that I wish other states would address. You come to Tamil Nadu, you will find that even in a rural village, the facilities, public service available are better than many other states. I think Punjab is good, parts of Gujarat is good, Kerala is good, but Tamil Nadu is really very good. Tamil Nadu's strength is the evenness of development, the disparity between our cities are not as good as cities in other states, but our villages are much better than villages in other states.
Please allow me to ask my last question, if you also allow, which is, one is the emphasis on rural customer that you just referred, if you could amplify, and a second one, which is why you think study on rural customer is important. A second one is the importance that you have been recently attaching to impact and impact assessment, because now IRMA is
okay,
also
there are two different questions. The first question, rural customer, clearly the penetration of most products and services is much lower in rural markets than urban markets. So the future growth is going to come from rural markets. And if we are not having that customer intimacy and intimacy with the rural customer, we are not going to understand his unique needs and provide him unique products or services. The second important question is outcomes. I think most of the charities, and in fact the national budget, is only about allocations. It is not about outcomes. Government has talked many times about outcome-based budgets, but it has never happened. The focus on corporate results is when you implement strategies. What is the reason for that strategy? I want to increase the number of dealers I have in Gujarat. But that is not an objective. Achieving sales in Gujarat is my objective. In the same way, if I have veterinary camps, that doesn't mean the livelihood of my people have gone up because their livestock is better looked after. But sometimes we still resort to the surrogate measure of the activity. But I think any good NGO should spend a lot of time on understanding impact. Today we understand what impact we can measure, and we are measuring it, and thanks to IRMA we are able to validate some of it or see that some of it is not working. But in some areas we still go on actually the activity of running veterinary camps or health camps or awareness programs, because we do not know how to measure always the actual outcomes. So we have to take a surrogate measure.
Thank you so much, and thank you all, and privilege.
I believe this was actually the format which adds the maximum value rather than a traditional lecture. And that is why and I must thank R.R. Nair for kindly agreeing to come here, because he's known SST, he's known TVS, I think 25 years? 20 years. So he does understand, and therefore could ask more insightful questions to bring out from me the best answers. So I hope you did enjoy this kind of format rather than a lecture.
Thank you so much, sir. A huge round of applause, please. I invite Dr. Umakant Dash to the stage, please. I would now request Dr. Dash to please felicitate our guests. Thank you, sir. I invite Dr. Shyam Singh, Dean Academic at IRMA, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you. It's with great pleasure and gratitude that I stand before you to deliver a vote of thanks to our esteemed guests, Shri Venu Srinivasan ji and Shri R. Nair ji. We are incredibly fortunate to have listened to your valuable insights and wisdom during the fireside chat and your interaction with our student. Your expertise and accomplishment in the business world are truly inspiring. More than that, your commitment to the development of marginalized section of rural society, specifically tribals, is commendable. I'm sure the knowledge and insight these young minds who have come here to receive knowledge and degree in rural management have gained from you will undoubtedly guide them as they embark on their professional journeys. On behalf of the Institute, faculty, student and staff, I extend our heartfelt thanks to both of you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule and being with us today. I would also like to express our gratitude to TVS team, SST team, that played a great role in putting this event together with us. Your efforts have been instrumental and we are truly grateful for your support. I also express our sincere thanks to Director Office, IRMA Administration, Program Office, ETD States team and others for managing this event. In the end, my sincere thanks and gratitude to Director IRMA who personally guided us in organizing this very important event. Thank you once again, Shri Venu Srinivasan ji and Shri R. Nair ji. May you continue to inspire and empower us. Thank you.
I request everyone to please stand up and please keep standing till the revered guests exit the auditorium. Thank you so much. You may please exit from the main entrances. Thank you.